Who knew that Elvis Presley had something in common with BLM, Antifa, and Brussels sprouts? Well, anytime you get BLM, Antifa, and these left-wing activists involved in anything, you know it's going to be left-wing lunacy from top to bottom. And that's what happened this week. That's what happened last week. We're going to talk about it. Hey, everybody, Voice of the Composer. Welcome back to my channel. It is late Tuesday night going into early Wednesday morning. By the way, you like the video or the series, please click that like button, subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram at #JasonComposes. You can leave comments below. And now you can reach me on Twitter, Voice of the Composer at Twitter. So let's get to it. BLM Antifa just defaced Graceland. Graceland, home of the 20th century's most prominent performer, the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. Now, I never knew that Elvis Presley was a white supremacist. Actually, it's quite the opposite. He was destined to be a gospel singer. He hung out with black gospel singers, black musicians. He championed black musicians in their music. He supported them. He had black musicians in his shows. And anybody who hung out with Elvis knew this. Everybody wanted to hang out with Elvis Presley back in the day because he was such a cool guy. He was humble. He was very giving, very generous man. Now, I was never a diehard Elvis fan, but even I would want to hang out with Elvis Presley. But once again, an example of us needing to preserve our culture because he influenced a lot of people. What are we going to do now? Burn the records of Elvis Presley? I just don't get it, folks. I just don't get it. And we got to talk about what happened last week on Anderson Cooper's show. What's the show? Anderson Cooper minus 6.0, where he's interviewing Jacob Blake Sr. Of course, that's the father of Jacob Blake. And midway through this interview, he brings up the statement that was released by the Kenosha Police Association, in which they state that Jacob Blake Jr. was in possession of a knife and he wasn't supposed to have any weapons on him, that there was an active warrant. And in fact, there was a woman that called the cops on him because he took her keys and he had assaulted her before. So a domestic dispute. Said this on a previous video. This guy, Jacob Blake, he had a criminal career longer than the Nile River. Absolutely true. Everything from assault to domestic violence, tried to strangle somebody, brandished a weapon in a bar during a fight. I mean, you name it, this guy did it. So Anderson Cooper brings up this point with Jacob Blake Sr. And you know what Jacob Blake Sr.'s response was? And this was a scream, a real scream. In fact, there is a 43-second clip, and I got to give a shout out to another channel called Control Politics, because they released this clip. And we could put this clip on a 20-minute loop because it is that good. It is so good, you put on a 20-minute loop, people are still going to want to come back for more. So when Anderson Cooper asked Jacob Blake Sr. about all these charges, you know what his response was? Well, some people say that Brussels sprouts are tasty. What? What do Brussels sprouts have to do with the fact that your son is a POS? Now, granted, that's your son. And nobody wants to see their child hurt or harmed or even killed. But he was doing some bad stuff, Mr. Blake Sr. And as it turns out, Jacob Blake Sr. lives in another state. I'll tell you what I think. I don't think this guy was around that much for his kids. Because if he was, Jacob Blake Jr. would not be out there committing crimes. Now look, there's always a bad apple in every family. No matter how good the child is raised, that can happen. But I'm willing to bet that Jacob Blake Sr. really wasn't around all that much for his kids. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And then, of course, we can't forget what's going on in Portland. That's kind of being buried. I mean, they're burning that place to the ground. Every night there's a protest. Every night it's violent. I wonder how many flights have been canceled going to Portland. Seriously, I mean, honestly, folks, how many flights have been canceled going to Portland or to Seattle? We got to stop the lunacy. We've got to preserve our culture, our history, our heritage. It's important. What gives these people, these activists, the right to go out there and burn down a city? You know, if you're mad about something, and I've said this before, take it to the ballot box, become part of the solution. Don't become the problem. Join the force. So just my 2 cents tonight. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click that like button, subscribe. Hit me up on Instagram at #JasonComposes. You can leave comments below and reach me at Voice of the Composer on Twitter. This is the Voice of the Composer saying peace out. I'll catch you next time. Stay safe, everybody, and God bless this great country.